Okay, so we are now live. Allow me to post this. It's definitely unlike me to actually stream midday, but I have about an hour or so before I have to get to my next case. And I decided why not take this opportunity to just screw around in a stream during the midday because there's a greater chance that nobody's going to be around and I'm not interrupting 5 other streams like it would otherwise be pretty much any other time that I'd have the time to actually do a stream. And unfortunately, with this, I don't really have anything prepared, so there's nothing really specific that I'm here to talk about. It's just me trying to, put some actual content on my channel rather than there being absolutely nothing and having a dead channel. So allow me to refresh. Is it going to really tell me that I don't have any events going on currently, so I can't observe what the fuck I'm doing? Is that really okay? There we go. Can't exactly see the chat if YouTube's not going to let me do that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it is. It is actually still the morning. It's 9 o'clock. I forgot. Thought it was closer to like 11, but I forgot. No, it's actually 9 o'clock. So yeah, it's probably one of the earliest streams that I've ever done. Oh, was V streaming? Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't mean to step on his stream. Actually, you know what? Let me. I'm gonna actually take a second here to message Sargon to see if he's available. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, there's not really much of a point to this stream, just because I'm around and I decided to take this time to actually just fuck around. So yeah, I figured. What about JF? Oh, V is criticizing. Yeah, who cares? Who cares? JF is just pulling the same thing as Coach Red Pill, which is just doing anything for attention. That's his MO at this point. I've never really interacted with JF. He's part of the whole post blood sports scene, which is kind of like, I don't really want to have any part of that, and I'm glad I never did because it was kind of ridiculous to watch, and it's kind of crashed and burned. And it's like, okay, well, there you go. Ooh, I forgot I have the I'll take care of the maker support thing after. I forgot I included the link in the generic template with this stream, and I don't want that to be there because I don't want people donating to that. I still have people fucking supporting me there, and it's like, well, you're not really doing me any favors because I can't access that money. It's kind of useless. But yeah, I thought I would talk a little bit about the JF thing. I don't really want to. Thanks for the support there, Jill, but I don't want to talk about Ben Shapiro. He's a hack. Like, if I don't watch his material like I used to anymore, just because I can't stand the guy. But yeah, the dude is just all over the place on so many different issues. He is such a hypocrite on immigration and other things. He talks out of both sides of his mouth as it relates to immigration. He's so stupid. Somebody's asking about the separation issue. So the separation issue is a political op. It's all it is. It's all it ever was. You can always tell a political op by the intensity of something that appears to come out of nowhere. And when you start scratching the surface of the issue of like what the actual topic is, once you realize that it's something that isn't partisan, it's not something you could just attribute to Trump, then that's when you realize it's just a political op. It's all it is. It's astroturfing. It's taking of an issue and it's basically what happens where it begins, where it germinates, is with political strategists. They sit down and they basically mull over issue, and they say, like, okay, we have 10 issues. Which of these 10 issues would help us in 2018? So November, the elections. What of these 10 issues, which of these 10 issues will work best for us? And so you go down the list and you take each individual issue and you look for which could be used the best to gin up your numbers and to make yourself look good and your opponents look bad. And usually, as far as I know, I don't really know how long it takes to do the analysis necessary, but what they do is they look at poll numbers, they look at argumentation that they could use, they look at their strategy in terms of the media, what they can just give to the media, and then the media can just spin. So there's a lot that goes into actual political strategy in this way, but I am 100% certain that the separation issue that we currently see of, I think it was just this week, I think that's pretty much the story, where it began and where it continues. That came from a group of likely political strategists that it's called workshopping. It's where you try to come up with a political strategy to use and to basically make yourself look good, and like I said, your opponents look bad. They took that issue probably, and then over the weekend sent it out to members of the press. Then once they basically worked with enough members of the press, like not editors, it's producers. Producers are whomever in a newsroom or in an outlet greenlights certain articles. They worked with them and they agreed that these articles would be written in such a time span. And the way that I know this is just based on working my own experience in working in an office, my degree in terms of researching how this is actually done, and the fact that you can just trace this. You can see this actually occur where whatever day it was, Monday and Tuesday, I pointed it out on Twitter. I'd have to go back and read my own tweets, but that was when this was basically sent out by the press to then become the news cycle for that week. And you can track this based on the most obvious that I saw was The Hill, which is a Beltway outlet. It's a political outlet. For 2 days straight, they sent out near endless articles related to the exact same subject matter. Literally one issue. And it was dozens of articles. And when I say dozens, I literally mean dozens of articles. More than 24 in 2 days. That is astroturfing. That is you making an issue as a news outlet. You create an actual news cycle. You generate it. That is not something that spontaneously happened. You created the news cycle as a news outlet. And that is something that news outlets do all the time to push certain political issues. They will literally fabricate them by working with, and they've done this with Republicans as well. So don't pretend that this is just a wholly partisan issue. They do this with Republicans as it relates to pushing for welfare, so-called welfare reform, so-called entitlement reform. They've done that before. Well, they'll run stories about, Social Security is bankrupt, blah, blah, blah. And they'll run like a 2-day story cycle of that being an issue. They'll do that with Republicans as well. But you see this a lot more with issues that have an emotional appeal because they know that drives clicks. That's one of the reasons why the news media will work with political strategists and with parties, is to benefit themselves as well. It's mutually assured interest in that way, where they push a bullshit story that Democrats can make themselves look good on, or Republicans, but in this instance, it's Democrats. Democrats push this issue. The media pushes this issue. The Democrats get to look good and get to do interviews, and the media get to drive clicks. That's the benefit that the news media gets from pushing an issue is views and generating advertisers. Anyways, so it's very easy to see, and I don't know, like, I'll probably do a stream this weekend where I talk about news stuff, but I don't really know how much I'll have to talk about that more than I just have, because it's a moot issue. It goes, as far as I can tell, the actual policy itself goes all the way back to either 1991 or 1994. The one that seems to be the consensus is 1994. That is when this overall policy was put into use. Now, as it relates to specifically segregating families, regardless of whether they're directly tied to the family overall, if they are being processed for deportation, that was introduced by Trump. But the problem is that that actual strategy was also used under Obama. So the exact same policy, not vaguely the same policy, but the exact same policy was utilized under Obama's administration up until the later half of it. During the second term, they removed that. Then it just became separating people that were processing for deportation that they had a felony against them. And that's because of a lawsuit that went to, I believe, either a federal court or actually the Supreme Court. It may have been just a federal court. But the policy that was then later put into place was because of that court decision. So the separations that were taking place were by court order. That wasn't actual a policy that was put in place. You get into the weeds when you start talking about it, but it's not. It's very stupid to just say that the whole decision resides with Trump, because Trump signed an executive order that, as far as I can tell, is going to get knocked down by a court. So it didn't even matter. Yeah, it was a Ninth Circuit Court agreement. Okay, there you go. It was a federal court decision. It wasn't the Supreme Court. So yeah, it was. It's just an AstroTurf issue that is incredibly easy. Yes, somebody on Twitter is asking who the fuck streams at 9 a.m. on a Friday. Yeah, I'm just around. You know what I mean? I'm just around to do it. And there's not too many people in the stream, not too many people around. But hey, this is the time that I have allotted to me. Well, some people are talking about Sargon and UKIP. He's going to have to clarify that himself. He put in Skype that I saw that was put out on Twitter by V that he actually got his membership card. So he is a member of UKIP, but there appears to be people within the organization that don't like him there. So maybe they can kick him out or expel him. But as far as I know, he is a member of UKIP. There's just some internal emails that are being alleged that he's being resisted somehow internally. But I can't speak to whether that actually occurred or not. He has to actually clarify it. I don't know. So if there's nothing else related to that, we can I can talk a bit about TJ Kirk's video. TJ did a video. So if you don't know who TJ is the Amazing Atheist. A lot of people know who he is. He put out a video from the podcast that he runs with his brother and some fat guy who I'm blanking on his name. I can't remember the guy's name. Somebody will say in chat what the fat guy's name is. But he does a stream with this with his brother and this fat guy, and I don't really watch his podcast, which is called Deep Fat Fried. I used to watch him way back when he was still doing the Drunken Peasants, but at one point I stopped watching it because it just got boring. But since then he started a new podcast with his Paul. Yeah, so they did a video talking about Jordan Peterson and Jordan Peterson's Prager University video. So I actually don't really like Prager University that much. I don't like Dennis Prager. He appears to be what would be called an evangelical sort of conservative. Not ridiculously so, but that appears to be his that individual person's disposition. But the benefit of Prager University is that you can give a conservative a opportunity to give their opinion on an issue in a concise way. So there is a direct benefit for Prager University being around. I don't follow the channel that often, but eventually, every once in a while, I'll see a video by them advertised, and that's actually how I saw that Jordan Peterson video originally, was through a commercial on YouTube from Prager University. And I watched the video, and I really didn't take issue with very much of what Jordan Peterson had to say. And the issue is that if you're actually being honest about what the exact issue is, not, I don't like Prager University, which is fine. You cannot like Prager University. You cannot like Dennis Prager. You cannot like Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson can still be correct. And that appears to be TJ's overall issue, and especially Paul, because making fun of Jordan Peterson is not an argument. You know, I don't want to go the whole route of, oh God, what's his name? Of sophist, a popular sophist right-winger YouTuber. I don't want to really go down the route of just stating not an argument and doing that so generally that it becomes a meme, and I just fail to address people's arguments in the way that he does. Stefan Melanu, thank you. But whenever you make fun of somebody, you have to make sure that you're not simply making fun of somebody and that's your only argument. I make fun of people when I actually upload, which is next to never now. But when I do a so-called takedown video, I can make fun of somebody, their appearance, the way they speak. It's very easy to make fun of somebody, but I never allow it. And you can watch my videos, and there's plenty of them where I make fun of people, but I don't allow that to become my main criticism against that person. I always make sure that I'm addressing their argument first and their appearance second. And unfortunately for Paul in this video, he's either making fun of his appearance or conceding Jordan Peterson's arguments. One of the worst examples of that in the video was when Jordan Peterson praises capitalism. And sure, capitalism is overall, you can argue, a moral system in comparison to, say, feudalism. And unfortunately for Paul, he made fun of Jordan Peterson, then had to then go on and make a fucking 15-minute concession that capitalism is in fact actually better than many other economic systems. Which is what you don't do if you actually want to win an argument. That's not a smart method by which to take somebody down, is to mock them incessantly, then spend about 10 to 15 minutes actually conceding the entire argument that you said originally was invalid. Paul in that video completely fucking embarrassed himself and by all appearances was completely unaware of it. So yeah, his performance was probably the worst. But TJ's wasn't much better. There was a few issues that Peterson raised in that where TJ just fell flat on his face and did so in such a way that, like, I don't even, like, somebody said, you know, are you going to do a takedown video? I had somebody DM me and say, like, oh man, you should really do a takedown video of it. And I was like, nah, dude, like, I'll do this. I'll talk about it right now on a stream in between cases, but I'm not going to do a whole video on it because it's so stupid. It's so lazy. And when they're not making fun of Jordan Peterson's appearance, his voice, or falling on their own face in terms of what they're arguing, they're just conceding what he's saying. And there's two entire instances in that video where they literally let him go on. They don't interrupt because they know him to be factually arguing something that they can't even, they can't even contradict him because they know that what he's saying is inarguably true. And it's like, wow, this is a great fucking takedown, guys. Great work. It was not a fucking good video. It was terrible. And the thing is that, you know, you can look at Jordan Peterson and say, oh, Jordan Peterson said this thing about atheism that I disagree with. Jordan Peterson said this thing about Christianity that I disagree with. And that's fine, but the thing is that you have to separate that from every other argument he's made. Because Jordan Peterson can be right on X, but wrong on Y. Just because he's wrong on Y does not then make him wrong about X. And that's the fucking fallacy that they make throughout that fucking video. And it's ridiculous. I know TJ is not that stupid that he doesn't understand that is in itself a fallacy. It's because he's blinded by his either envy or just ridiculous hatred of Jordan Peterson. I've seen many people say that it's out of envy, but I'm just going to say that it's just a irrational hatred that he has for Peterson. Whether it's because Peterson has fanboys, which, wow, congratulations. Name me a YouTuber that doesn't have fanboys. Name me a mainstream big name YouTuber that doesn't have fanboys. Wow, you don't like their fanboys, therefore they're wrong. Wow. That's some great fucking argumentation you're engaging in. Yeah. But yeah, what was the other thing? The big thing, there was a couple things that they argued in that were particularly egregious in terms of what they were defending. Because I know that if put on the spot, TJ would not agree. He would say that, no, I agree with Jordan Peterson in terms of us seeing the same thing. Because one of the big things was equity. So equity is something very specific in terms of what's being argued. I made the example of this in the response that I left in the comment section of that video, where Harvard is, by all appearances, actively discriminating against Asians, likely Jews and whites, in their admissions for the sake of diversity, how they perceive diversity, for the sake of unqualified blacks and Latinos being able to go to Harvard, for the sake of some perceived slight against them. That black people and Latinos are somehow, they have some inherent disadvantage, so they need affirmative action in order to qualify for Harvard University. So thereby, because we have X finite seats, we have to discriminate against Asians and whites and Jews to make sure that the Asians or the Latinos and blacks can make it in. That is equity. That is equity. It is seeking equal outcomes. It is not fairness. It is not equal opportunity. It is desiring an outcome and being totalitarian and authoritarian and unfair in the process of achieving that end. That is equity. And it's very distinct. To say that equity is equivalent to equal opportunity is fundamentally false. It is not the same thing. And it's amazing to me that something that is, again, you can't even argue, that is going on, whether it's in corporations, universities, in society generally, it is happening. And in my opinion, and it's the same with Jordan Peterson, the source of that issue is universities. That is where it's stemming from. It's not something that is just appearing in society organically. It is coming from universities. So Jordan Peterson's solution to that problem is to defund those people in the universities. Get rid of them. If you don't fund those departments, if you don't fund that section of academia, those academics go away. They have to go into the private sector, and they'll likely not exist then. There's going to be some private universities that keep them around, but the issue is that they're far more likely to fail in a private university and in the private sector than they would be in a public sector where they're there forever. They can have an entire career there. And there's been multiple generations of these people in universities, multiple generations of academics that are fucking absolute lunatics and that are revolutionaries. I don't see the argument against what Peterson is arguing for. because you're not deplatforming or censoring somebody who's speaking. You are removing somebody from an academy, from a university that is just an ideologue. They're not there to teach anyone anything. They're there to indoctrinate students to believe as they do and to churn out thousands of activists to overthrow the system. That is their direct purpose. They are revolutionaries. They're not really academics. They're revolutionaries. And as Jordan Peterson says, what sense does it make to be funding through taxpayer dollars revolutionaries? I don't know if anyone's noticed, but we live in a liberal representative democracy, and that is the thing they want to overthrow. So what does that make them? They're not innocent. They're not naive, soft, like they're not innocuous philosophers. These people are lunatic totalitarian ideologues, and they're creating entire generations, multiple generations of lunatic revolutionary activists. These aren't just, baristas in Starbucks. These are people that are on the streets assaulting people. They're dangerous. These are people that are pushing, even with that one, whatever it was in Texas, that one lunatic student that published in the student newspaper calling for the genocide of whites. It's like, no, this is completely innocuous. You have people engaging in violence and calling for genocide. No, let's just keep funding this. Let's just keep continuing with this. This is totally innocuous. This to me is something that can't even be argued against. This isn't a free speech thing. You can be free to call for the genocide of people, but you shouldn't be taxpayer subsidized. I shouldn't be paying you to advocate the genocide of myself. How is this even something that can be argued? If some random private NGO wants to fund you to show up to speak in favor of genocide, that's fine. But why the fuck am I paying for it? And one of the big things that Jordan Peterson raised, and this is actually something besides the point, but it may be one of the reasons why TJ, even on a subconscious level, is lashing out. But one of the reasons that Jordan Peterson is so popular with many different people, and one of the things that Jordan Peterson has said is that many of the people that are attracted to him are people on the left, are people in the center, and are also atheists, even though he has said stupid shit about atheism, where he's misaligned what it actually is as a so-called movement. But one of the reasons why, and I talked about this when I was in New York City with a few different people, that one of the outgrowths of atheism, the movement that took place with the original Four Horsemen, was atheism came in, kicked the shit out of the Christian identitarians, and then afterward completely split off, diverged completely. And that was because that in the end, with the atheist movement, there was nothing to replace what was being removed, which was the sentiment of Judeo-Christian identitarianism as a philosophy. It basically said, okay, well, there is no truth statement to there being a God, which invalidates your whole thrust in terms of your argument. The thrust of your argument is based upon an unfalsifiable claim, which is true. The whole ethos of the whole Judeo-Christian argument is there is a God. Therefore, that's what makes these things moral. That's what makes these things objective. That's what makes my philosophy genuine, is based on this truth, this unfalsifiable claim regarding the existence of a God. And that's where we derive things from. Atheism kicked the shit out of that argument by saying that you can't actually prove this source to be true. And therefore that doesn't make what you're saying objective. But the problem is that once that occurred, there was nothing to replace that ethos, that the source of morality and everything else, like how to construct a society. And so you had this divergence in atheism where you had people such as myself that said, okay, well, now I'll have to construct my own personal moral framework based on these different philosophies, these different philosophers, what I actually hold to be moral, and so on. Like, how do you govern a society? It's based upon these different factors, these different philosophies, these different philosophers, and so on. It's not based on Judeo-Christian blah, blah, blah. It's not based on God. It's not based on this. The only argument against that is basically the argument that I've seen Ben Shapiro put forth, and I haven't seen anyone properly argue against him, which is Judeo-Christian philosophy or Judeo-Christianism created the atmosphere necessary to create the philosophies that have then gone on to create the Western world. That is something I haven't actually seen anyone very concretely argue against in a way that completely debunks that argument. Not saying it can't be debunked or whatever, but the idea that the philosophy that stems from Judeo-Christian attitudes and of religion, that philosophy went on to create the Western world. So that is something, again, but anyways, the issue is that with atheism in the West, and especially in America, what happened was they won out. They won the argument. They managed to convince enough people that things need to be reconsidered because there is you cannot prove that God exists. It is an unfalsifiable claim. You cannot prove it. So the thing is, then what? And the problem is that a lot of atheists then went on to say that because of the atheist movement, that's what justifies postmodernism. And TJ would mock the idea of postmodernism, but it is, in essence, a deconstructive philosophy regarding the Western world. But the problem is that postmodernism itself is not a whole philosophy. One of the big problems with postmodernism is that it falls back to Marxism to explain a whole bunch of different things. And because of that, it's bad. Because it then just immediately launches into a revolutionary mindset for the Western world. It doesn't just deconstruct the Western world and that just by itself, objectively. It doesn't just seek to understand the Western world. It seeks to overthrow it. And what happens once you go down the road of postmodernism is you fall back to Marxism. That is inevitably what these people argue for. I've not seen one postmodernist in terms of their analysis of the Western world. I've not then seen them just completely devolve and default immediately back to Marxist concepts of in essence, how do we then, if Western liberalism, that philosophy is invalid, what then replaces it? If this is invalid, what then is the answer to its replacement? And it is always Marxism. It is always a Marxist critique and a Marxist understanding in terms of a solution. It's revolutionary, and that's the thing. Like, you have to understand that, like, it's not just about the critique. It always comes with the Marxist solution. There's never just a postmodernist critique, and that's it. That's the fucking problem. That's the problem with the universities. That's why you don't have people coming out saying that I'm still a Western liberal and also a postmodernist. That doesn't happen. It's always I'm a postmodernist and also a Marxist. That is my solution to Western liberalism. It's never just, you never leave that philosophy with accepting Western liberalism. You always reject it and you always default to Marxism. So when Jordan Peterson says postmodernist neo-Marxist professors, he is correct. He is correct. That is not because of him. It is because of postmodernism not being a complete philosophy. It is incomplete. And the incomplete part of it is always supplemented with fucking Marxism. So postmodernism by itself is not, it's basically post-Marxism. It's not just the old version of class dynamics in terms of proletariat bourgeoisie of philosophy and of solutions. It is post-Marxism. It's taking elements of Marxism and then implementing it. That's how you get white versus black, male versus female. It's all post-Marxist. It's taking the concept of Marxism, of class, of oppressor and oppressed. It's taking that element and then using it in another dynamic rather than class. That comes from Marxism. That's where, like, when people talk about feminism and objectivism or objectification, okay, that comes from Marxism. That is provably true. Objectification in a feminist sense through feminist theory, which is postmodernist, that comes from Marxism. That is unquestionably, I can prove it. I have in the past. It comes from George Lucas, or Lucas, however you say it. It was a Polish Marxist intellectual. It comes from Marxism. This is where this derives from. And this is what is being indoctrinated in universities. It is a revolutionary ideology. It does not comport with Western liberalism. It seeks to overthrow it. And that's my problem with it. You know, it's not innocent. It's not innocuous. It is something, it is dangerous. You know, I see it and I just look at this and I listen to fucking TJ just say that, like, it's this innocent thing and that it can just be left alone and it's not something to worry about. And it's like, no, dude, like, this is a revolutionary ideology that is being forwarded in universities and is indoctrinating students. You are indoctrinating revolutionaries that are seeking to overthrow representative government, to overthrow liberalism. Like, you can't just, like, retreat the way that you do to, I'm going to smoke weed and be lazy and call myself a nihilist, even though I'm not. You're not a nihilist. You just pretend to be. You're just lazy. You're apathetic. Hungarian. Thank you, John. George Lucas was Hungarian. But you can't just retreat from this. You can't. I absolutely agree with Jordan Peterson in this instance that these people should be fucking defunded. These people should be expelled from universities. And I don't see that as a violation of freedom of speech, because these people are advocating for the removal of the First Amendment. So, like, you're basically allowing for you basically argue that the First Amendment should cover violent revolutionaries that are seeking to overthrow the system using just pure ideology, not argumentation, because they actively campaign to remove people from campuses and to shut down and censor people that are arguing in favor of freedom of speech for everyone, arguing in favor of pluralism in terms of politics. These people are censoring those people. And that's who you're advocating for, those people. Their right to do that. I don't think so. You know, I'm not advocating for the noose that's going to fucking kill me. So, yeah, you know, I think that he's completely in the wrong. And my whole thing would be with TJ, my solution to him would be, I want you to basically watch a video of Jordan Peterson without his face on it, and basically you make his voice anonymous. You like you audio change his voice so you don't know it's Jordan Peterson. Just listen to what he's fucking saying. You know, that's all it has to be. You get so wrapped up in wanting to make fun of him and call him Kermit the Frog and say that he sounds lethargic and all this other bullshit when you're not actually engaging in what he's arguing. It's completely fucking stupid and unproductive. It's not an argument. So yeah. But I'm just going to see if anyone has anything to add to that, because I might actually step out to go get something to eat because my stomach's gurgling. I need something to eat here. But let me actually, I didn't read the super chat, so and again, like I'll say, it doesn't make Jordan Peterson Christ incarnate. You know, it just means that like the guy is right about something very specific that to me is very worrying as a Western liberal. I want to exist in a world where, an anti-abortionist and I don't even know what you would say, somebody who's in favor of access to abortion, if I want to be politically correct about it, because so many people are either just nebulously, vaguely in favor of pro-choice like I am, vaguely, and then lunatics, like shout your abortion fucking maniacs. But I want to exist in a world where we can just disagree on an issue and we're not trying to take each other's fucking rights away. I think that this sentiment that is growing in the Western world of basically, whoever holds the gun in the end is the fucking victor. Like, I don't really want to go down that fucking road. And that's the road we're currently on. That's the track. It's incredibly dangerous. And, I just think that TJ should take this more seriously. Because I don't think he is. I think that he's being lazy and apathetic. And that to me is the opposite of what one should be. Like, he definitely, I get the feeling that when he read Nietzsche, he fucking basically came to the conclusion that like, oh man, oh bro, everything's bullshit. Society's bullshit, bro. Tradition's bullshit, bro. It's all bullshit, bro. And that's just apathy. And I talked about this with a couple people in New York City as well. Like, when I read, and somebody just said it, John just said in chat, the hunger for raw power is what scares me these days, and the lengths that people on the left are willing to go and get it. Yeah, dude, absolutely. Absolutely, John. That's my fear as well. I'm very afraid of people just seeking power to their own end and not giving a shit about how they achieve it in the process. That's incredibly dangerous and scary. And it's a bad mindset to have, because even if, let's say that you're on my side or you're on more a conservative side, pursuing that in and of itself is a dangerous path to take, because as I've said before, it's a revolutionary concept. And in the end, you better hope you're the one holding the gun. Nothing is dictating that in the end, you're going to be holding the power. Nothing. It could always go the other way. It's a rejection of political pluralism. And when that happens, there's nothing guaranteeing that in the end, you're going to be the one holding the fucking leash. You could just as easily be the one that's collared. You don't understand what you're arguing for. But anyways, getting back to Nietzsche, with Nietzsche, in my opinion, there's arguably, it splits. There's a divergence with Nietzsche in terms of who reads it. And I'm not saying this, I'm generalizing, I know. But I've seen this too often where it's, you read Nietzsche and, well, there's more than one way, because I've met people that with Nietzsche that reject it, but whatever. You read Nietzsche, let's see, in terms of you accept what Nietzsche says, there's two paths that I've seen. It's everything's bullshit, apathy, laziness, being weak and pathetic, and somehow seeing that as you advancing in terms of your own personal like self-actualization to you as being a fucking lazy shit. And then the other path is actually pursuing self-betterment. You actually realize that I'm nothing, I'm nobody, I'm weak, and that the only person that's going to get me somewhere to where I am successful and I have achieved something is by pursuing that, by empowering myself. If I'm fat, work out. If I'm lazy and procrastinate, stop being lazy and stop procrastinating. That's the whole, in my opinion, like the whole clean your room concept from Jordan Peterson is just pursue a path to self-actualization. Stop making excuses. Stop being lazy. That to me is how I interpreted Nietzsche. Was the only person that's ever going to get you from A to Z is if it's you. That's the only one. It's going to be you. No one's going to intervene and make you stop. It's going to stop you from procrastinating. No one's going to kick your ass for you, which is what you need. You need someone to kick you in the ass, to get off your ass. Stop being lazy. Stop being pathetic. Start achieving. The only one that can do that is you. The only one. And that's how I read it. And it seems to me that that's the divergence when you read Nietzsche's material, is apathy and laziness or self-empowerment and bettering yourself. There's a real split based on my experience of people that read Nietzsche and like Nietzsche. Some people use it for laziness, and others use it for self-empowerment and realize that the only one holding you back is you. That's a real big part of it. Is the only one holding you fucking back, bro, is you. So get off your ass. Stop being fucking pathetic. It's the dynamic of slave mentality, master mentality. That's a big part of it. So yeah, Joe said earlier, I'm gonna read the super chats. Thoughts on Ben? No thanks. Bazinski says tip jar. Thank you for the support there, Bazinski. Raging Buffalo, who's a good subscriber of mine, who him and I go back on Twitter all the time. He says, get back to work. You're a cuck. That's true. In terms of I'm just a slave for my fucking company, man. It's it's also laziness on my part for not uploading, but like, man, my job this month has been fucking ridiculous, and it's for a variety of reasons that I don't really know if I want to get into, just because it's internal policy shit. But like, basically, an important client for my state, yeah, okay, fine. An entity in my state got into a contract dispute with my company, and basically, my company really should have kicked ass. They should have fired a couple people, in my opinion. They should have fired a couple people. They didn't. Instead, they did the fucking shuffle that people accused of teachers unions, where they shuffle people around. They did that in my company because they didn't want to fire a certain person they probably should have fired, who's a lazy fuck. And if this happens again, I'm probably going to blow him into the company and just say, like, listen, like, I know this guy. I know he's being lazy. He's like taking off during cases, and he shouldn't be. He's being lazy. You should probably fire him. And it's because he's creating problems for everybody. Because what happened was they took a bunch of people off cases, and then they dumped all the cases onto me. So it's like, okay, they have me working 7 days, 6 days, 7 days, 7 days, 6 days. Like, they have me working every day of the fucking week for like this month. What's the 22nd? I've had 1 day off, 1 or 2 days off this entire month because of this fucking guy. Because of this one fucking guy creating a contract dispute, I've had 2 days off max this month. And one of them was a vacation day that I fucking requested. So, because of that shit, I've been fucking ridiculously busy. And, yeah, one guy can fuck up a lot of shit. And he didn't get fired, which I couldn't believe. Anyways, honestly, Trump should sue for outright lies against him. And the thing is that, like, he'd be suing everybody if he was going to sue one of these news media companies. He has to wait for something very specific to make a lawsuit against him, in my opinion. Unhyphenated American says, hey, that's a cool name. That sounds like that group run by that black guy. There's some black guy that has an organization called Unhyphenated American, I think, where it's basically like he's a black guy who hates like Asian American, African American, like he hates that. I agree. I'm 100% on his side. I fucking hate that bullshit too. It should just be American. If your skin is black, if you're ethnically whatever the fuck, I'm ethnically Italian. Okay, that's fucking great. You're still an American. You know what I mean? Like, if you say I'm an Italian American and you're actually from Italy, like you're a first generation immigrant, okay, cool. Like, I understand that it's hard to make that transition perfectly. You know what I mean? Like, I get it that you're still going to have some love for the country you left because you're first generation. So in that sense, I get you saying you're Italian American because you came from Italy. But if you're like fucking 5 generations later, you're fucking an American, bro. Like, you couldn't even identify any family back in your original, like where your ancestors fucking came from. You couldn't even name anyone from that country. You're not Italian or whatever anymore. You're not part of that country anymore. You're just an American. Get over it. Cling to some other fucking identity, please. So, Basinski says at the chat, summer sales have started on Steam. Be sure to explore your discovery queue, get free cards, turn them into gems. So there's Basinski giving some advice for people on Steam. I haven't really bought anything as of late, and I'm glad for that. I don't think there's really much in the market right now. But yeah, the Steam summer sale has started. Zeppy says in chat, I used to think being a PI was sexy, but then Lewis, yeah, it's not, dude. It's not. I mean, it definitely has its place in the world because it feels pretty good personally, in my opinion, to fuck somebody you know is just a piece of shit. I mean, like I said, one of my it's not a plaque on my wall, but it is in my own mind that I sent a convicted child rapist back to prison for fraud. You know, that to me is something that I find worthwhile doing, is to send an unqualified piece of shit back to where he belongs. Get him off the street. Because he's still a fucking criminal. And that's the thing. There was no fucking rehabilitation in terms of his case. He's still a fucking criminal. Mitch, I don't know why you keep saying Nishi over and over again. I'm saying Nietzsche. That's how I'm saying it. I got that from a professor in college, so I think he actually knows more than you do, sir. I've seen it pronounced a couple different ways, like Nietzsche or whatever the fuck. That sounds stupid. It's Nietzsche. Anyways, is there anything else before I go to fucking Tim Hortons to get myself something to eat? Because it's still 10 a.m. Anything else anyone wants to bring up before I move on? Gross fucking thing on Twitter. That fucking picture, the openly gay guy from Pennsylvania whose campaign thing was to flip off Pence. He's such a goofy looking motherfucker. I swear to God. Like, I see that that what's his name? Brian Sims. Oh yeah, he's from Philadelphia, where he flips off Pence. That's his picture. It's like, if I was Pence, I would just reply to him. Like, the thing was with Pence, he's a fucking boring old fuck, and he's never gonna say anything like this. I would just tell him to go take it in the ass, because he does. Like, he's, oh bro, fuck you. Look at me flip you off. Like, bro, you go take it in the ass. You're out here like talking shit. Fuck off. Go get fucked by your boyfriend, bro. Shut up. That would be my response. Space Force. Yeah, I mean, as far as like, the thing is that the whole reason behind Space Force is not because Trump is stupid. Like, even back when Bush did it, because Bush did this before. Bush actually introduced it, the whole idea of a Space Force, when he talked about going to Mars. Like, people way back when thought that it was a distraction against for the Iraq War, and it was nonsense. It was actually the Pentagon back then trying to tell the Bush administration that they needed to get ahead of China, India, and other countries that are going into space because they're going to start colonizing space. And that's what Trump's arguing for. And he's actually, I guess, pulling the trigger finally. He's actually going to create it. It is because eventually space travel is going to become common, and people are going to start planting flags. And the problem is that once people start planting flags, there's nothing you can do. If China puts a base on the moon or puts a base on Mars, what can we do in that instance other than stake our own claim and try to try to contrast their power. I mean, let's say it happens. Let's say that China stakes a claim on the moon. Yeah, let's say the moon, because Mars is a bit of a bigger issue because we don't have the ability to get there quickly. So let's say the moon. So China creates a moon base, and they plant a flag, and they say this part of the moon, or even the entire moon, is now our territory. China claims the moon. The only way to basically stop that or counteract it is to put our own fucking base there and to stake our own claim. And then basically, what happens if they come, like there's patrols like they would be in the ocean, because there's no clear borders. What happens if you have two patrols that run up against one another and there's a dispute? We're in our territory, you're in our territory too. Get the fuck out. And they go, no, this is our fucking territory. You get the fuck out of our territory. Then there's a dispute. What happens if they cross paths? There could be, because then it basically, when that happens, then it necessitates that you have armament to shoot the opposite side, because that's how you then prevent people from crossing your border on the moon, is you basically have to have weaponry that can exist in a zero oxygen atmosphere. So the whole thing of like space battles and moon battles, that could be a fucking thing. We could have a Cold War on the moon. That is very possible. It's crazy to think of, and it's very memeable. As I didn't tweet it out, but I wanted to. I might still do it just because I couldn't do it on my laptop. Of Dave Chappelle making fun of Bush over we're going to Mars. That is the future. Like, eventually we're going to run out of area on Earth to disagree about, and we are going to start competing in space for more territory. It is an inevitability. It is. Somebody says, speaking of games, what do you think about Battlefield 5? Don't get it. There's my response to Battlefield 5. Don't get it. Oh yeah, I forgot. I didn't even read Unhyphenated American's message, which was that TJ's thing with Jordan Peterson is just jealousy. I guess it's an easy argument to make, though. So Bobby says in the chat that the issue with the Judeo-Christian claim, it is in part a presuppositional argument. I agree, and I saw that somebody put that out there before, but that the reason, the way that we got here now, we're at where we at now in terms of Western liberalism because of fighting against the church, and that is correct. That one of the constant things that the West has been doing is tempering and defeating, ultimately, different churches, whether it's the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, or it's not exactly a whole church like the Catholic Church, but you get what I'm saying, the Protestant faith, Lutheran faith, all the rest of it. It has been continuous defeats on their end by, in essence, progressives and, in the most ideal sense of the word, and liberals. It's always been the traditionalists and the conservatives that have been basically arguing in favor of tradition. And the issue is that I think that we are now reaching, in some sense, the limitations of what could be ideally progressivism or a deranged form of liberalism, in that we're reaching rock bottom, where now what is being argued against is Western liberalism itself. And the conservatives are, in essence, the liberals. The liberals are saying, no, liberalism, Western, just a basic fundamental sense of Western chauvinism and tradition in the sense of representative government is a good thing, and we should retain it. So the liberals have become the conservatives in that way, because the progressives are now revolutionaries. They're a combination of neo-Marxists, revolutionaries, socialists, and so forth, and in essence, nihilists, in that they fundamentally reject the idea of Western liberalism being a good thing, being a moral system. They reject that. And that is incredibly dangerous because once you get rid of that, there is nothing left. There's nothing to replace Western liberalism. There's nothing better to replace it. It's just a vague communistic sense system, a vague socialistic sense system, which even TJ and Paul went on a 15 to 20-minute diatribe saying that socialism has never worked and will never work. They stupidly said that capitalism doesn't work, which is retarded of them to say. The most functioning systems in the world, the most functional systems in the world are all capitalist. The most productive, the most free systems in the governments and so forth, societies in the entire world are all capitalist. Every single one. You can argue against capitalism in the sense of globalization and all the rest, but you can't argue against capitalism in that the most productive free societies in the world are the capitalist societies. And it's like in my opinion, the socialist versus capitalist argument is over with. It's over with. Yeah, TJ is a capitalist. He's just being stupid about it. Like you can be like against internationalist sort of capitalism. You can be against corporatism, as I am. Because corporatism is not the same thing as capitalism. It is derivative of capitalism, but it is not in and of itself just capitalism. In my opinion, one of the consequences of capitalism is corporatism. But the problem is that it's not something that then invalidates capitalism. It's just an outgrowth of it that you have to basically fight against. You have to regulate capitalism and regulate capitalists so that we don't become a corporatist system. Because a corporatist system will start taking your rights away. Look at the banks that have stopped trading. Like I have a whatever it is, the NRA magazine. A huge portion of this month's NRA magazine is bitching about the fact that, and rightly so, that there are banks now basically going after gun manufacturers and the NRA and not completing their transactions and basically dumping their investment in these gun companies. And it makes them then harder to get investment into complete transactions because you have these banks ideologically fighting against them. That's corporatism. That's corporatism. That's not capitalism. Because if you're a bank, what the fuck does it matter? What the fuck does it matter that you're completing transactions for a legal system? It's a gun manufacturer that exists in the United States. It's Smith & Wesson. It's Colt. It's Remington. These are not alien entities. These are not cartels, which, by the way, banks have fucking HSBC and others have laundered money for fucking terrorist organization and cartels. So this isn't anything about morality. This is just political sway in a corporation, which is nothing more than corporatism. That is you using the corporate power that you have and wielding it against others for your own political interests. You know, that is not capitalism. You Singapore. Yeah, let me catch up with the chat and all that. Joe says Sticks thinks the Democrats have played their hand too soon regarding immigration. Says they should have waited till October. Thoughts? Yeah, I agree. They'd be a lot smarter to play this closer to September, October, November. The closer to November that they would have played this, it actually would have been a good idea. But they definitely, I agree with him. They pulled the trigger on this too early. I'm not really sure why they did it now. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I've seen a bunch of people using the liberal meme. Yeah, that to me is the annoyance. Because one of the things that TJ said in that stream, which he ultimately defeated his own argument, but he's right, was that there are conservatives that are against free speech, and it's basically it's easy to distinguish between the left. The left argues free speech from the position of offense, that you have a right to not be offended. That is the way by which the left argues against free speech. The right argues against free speech from the position of obscenity. Anytime you ever hear a right winger argue against free speech or expression, they will make the argument from obscenity, where they say that obscenity is exempt from the First Amendment. It's every single time I've ever seen it, that has been the fucking argument. Every single fucking time. And TJ's right. He's right in a sense. He didn't really go on to make the actual argument, but he is correct. There are conservatives that do make the position, that do argue against free speech and free expression, but it is from the position of obscenity, where they say there's an exception to free speech. Anti-free speech is antithetical to the right-wing position. That's not true, John. There are anti-free speech conservatives. You are incorrect, sir. They exist. I've run into them just a handful of times in my life. You see it mostly online and through political shit like lobbying. But every once in a while, you'll run into them. Do I actually want the Dems to win this election, or would you rather have them reform the party before they regain power? I would say, honestly, it's they obviously need to reform. Even Bernie Sanders has become like totally ridiculous in terms of what he's arguing. I've seen him arguing in favor of in essence, open borders. And it's ridiculous that he's making that argument when I've seen him clearly state the reasons why we should not have open borders in the past. So when you have somebody that just scoffs at the idea of open borders and says that it's a corporatist thing to want that, to then go on and basically make that argument, you definitely need to reform as a party at that point. Yeah, I just saw Chisel28 said it correctly. There are plenty of conservatives that are only pro free speech because they don't hold the gun themselves. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. You know, I said this in a while back, and I wanted to make a video on it, and it's still one of the videos I want to make, but I have to really address. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but it's basically that one of the core issues on the right, one of the things they haven't settled is that there are elements of the right that are absolutely not principled on the issue of free speech and expression. They are 100% cynical and using this as a club to beat the left. That the minute, let's say the left falls apart completely, if they get the gun in their hand against free speech to use that as an argument and hold the power of restrictions on speech, they will 100% pull the trigger and use it. They do exist. So for anyone on the right to say that that faction doesn't exist on their side, they're 100% being wrong. You are sticking your head in the sand. You have no idea what's coming then, because there are absolutely people on the right that will pull the trigger, that will, in action, use corporations, use institutions, use the government to censor speech. They will do it. I don't really know, because you say, John, you say it's an aberration on the right. I don't know. Like, I'm not well vested. I'm not I don't know if it's vested or I'm not ingratiated in conservative politics enough to know how big it is. I don't know. I don't know how big of that element exists in the right. I just know it exists. I am 100%. I know that it exists on the right, and that they are cloaked. They're very cloaked. They are waiting. They're waiting for their opportunity to spring out. It's something that I think honestly, if you ever see a collapse on the left, and it's one of the reasons why I don't advocate for a collapse on the left, I might do it in anger or out of frustration, But I want the left to reform ultimately, because if I do think if it does collapse, you are going to see a very authoritarian element come flying out of the fucking right. You will see a very authoritarian element come from the right afterwards, because then they're going to see the gun. The gun's going to be on the ground, and they're going to fucking go for it. You're going to see more libertarian or more liberal, classically liberally minded conservatives. They're going to go, yes, we've defeated the authoritarians. And then the authoritarian right wing is going to come out of the fucking woodwork, and they're going to go grabbing for that gun. And they're going to use it against you guys too. That's the whole dangerous part of this, is that it's then going to be the people on the left and the center right / libertarian right. They're going to be under their thumb. They very much exist. And I would watch out for them. I'd very much watch out for them, because they will use that gun on against you, dude. They will use it. If you are a more liberally / libertarian minded conservative, they will fucking use that gun against you. They will not hesitate. They don't give a fuck. It's all about pushing their bullshit, whatever it is, whether it's anti-porn shit, like anti-art shit, whatever it is, they will fucking use it. Government mandate Asian GFs for authoritarian right wing. I don't agree with that. I think that's bullshit. I think that one of the big fears with the authoritarian right is that they will just be thinly veiled corporatists. Because you have to recall that the neocons, people that people begrudged as being neocons, those are the people that introduced NAFTA. It was Bill Clinton that passed NAFTA, but it was the right that introduced the trade agreement. And it was Nixon and that era's Republicans that created the permanent trade relationship with China. So one of the aspects of conservatism that I don't think that the right wing has ever been able to really deal with is the fact that a great deal of what we deal with now stemmed from the right. That ultimately the left is benefiting a lot from what's going on currently, but a lot of this does stem from what the right did economically a while ago. And that there is no real argument against it from a right-wing perspective at this point, other than from like a nationalist perspective. Nationalists can very easily take down internationalist conservatives, but the problem is that international conservatism is still, in my opinion, the mainstream. No matter how many Trump voters you get, in my opinion, I still think in terms of the intelligentsia, in terms of the Republican Party, in terms of mainstream political right-wing thought, internationalist conservatism is still the status quo. Even though Trump won, I absolutely agree that internationalist conservatism is still the status quo. Because the thing is just that the ideal form of it, and the thing is too, and I've debated this before, the ideal form of neoconservatism isn't wrong in and of itself. That if you look at what the goals were of, we're going to do some evil but achieve a lot of good things, it's like, well, I can't really argue against what your ideals were, even if, like, you can still argue the evil the good in the end outweighs the evil that you're going to do now. Like, I can see the logic in what you're arguing, but the problem is that the neoliberal conservatives, the internationalist conservatives, and the neocons, the neoconservatives, they were corrupted. They were corrupted, and they just abandoned any sense of what they're actually pursuing. Like, what their ends were, they just gave up. They just said, fuck it, I'm just here to get rich. I'm just here to make my own, I'm just here to take my own pound of flesh from a government contract. I don't give a fuck about the rest of it. You know, in my opinion, and it is arguably, neoconservatism as an ideology is fucking dead. But international conservatism is still around, but it is wholly corrupted. It's terrible. International conservatism is corrupt and awful. And I hope that nationalist conservatism completely overtakes it. Even when people say, oh, it's stupid and oh, protectionism and blah, 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 and I read Milton Friedman, don't you understand, Louis? It's like, no, I don't care. I really hope nationalist conservatism overtakes internationalist conservatism, because fucking internationalist conservatism is cancer. It's awful. You know, it's the ideology of Theresa May. It's the ideology of Jeb Bush. It's the ideology of we're going to allow the hordes into our country and to just abandon Western tradition and Western liberalism. That is their fucking philosophy. It's weak, it's pathetic, it's money driven. It is money driven. So, yeah, it's a terrible ideology, and I hope it fucking dies out. Because it has no answer. It has absolutely no answer to to what we're seeing in the West now. It has no answer to it. You know, it brings in the horde and then has no answer to it. It's pathetic. It's a philosophy that isn't serving. It just like all it does is crack down on their own citizens. It just cracks down on dissent. You know, you don't prosecute the rape gangs, the Muslim rape gangs. You prosecute the guy talking about the Muslim rape gangs. Like that is the internationalist conservative answer, which mirrors in essence the progressive answer. You know, they have no solution. And I see somebody in the chat who might be a troll based on the name arguing against tariffs. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm wrong about tariffs. What is your answer to what's going on in Europe? You don't have one. The internationalist conservative has no answer to the problem they helped create. They went along with the insane left, brought this problem into the West, and they have no answer to it. In my opinion, it's a cancerous fucking ideology because it creates problems that they then have no solutions to. And then you have all these populists and these nationalist right-wingers that gain power and they go, oh, I don't like this. Trump is enacting tariffs. I don't like that. Well, stop him. Stop him. I'm not a conservative. I didn't vote for Trump. Stop him. Go vote for Jeb Bush and stop him. You can't. You're not going to stop Trump. You're not going to stop the guy that just got elected in Hungary, re-elected in Hungary, and just elected in Italy. You can't stop them. The internationalist right is fucking pathetic. You can't stop populists and nationals from kicking your ass because you have created these problems that they are now trying to stop. Ronald Amnesty Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush created a whole litany of problems that they can't fix. They can't fix these problems. And so what you then get is the guy that was just elected in Italy, the guy that's been elected in Poland, in Hungary. You get Trump in America. You know, you get all of these populist right-wing people. Because ultimately there isn't really many populist left-wingers at this point in time, which is unfortunate. I liked Bernie because he had all the appearances of a populist leftist. A person that understood that mass immigration isn't good for working class laborers. It's not good for fucking unions. They have unlimited fucking mass immigration. That's a populist argument. It's very good for corporations, construction companies, and all the rest. They have unlimited immigration. But it's not good for domestic workers, for actual citizens. It's not good for them. Jeb Bush landslide 2020. So yeah, anyways, Joe says in super chat for $5 for £5 actually, the neo-libs forgot about the post-World War II Bretton Woods Agreement, which birthed neoliberals, which was about centralizing authority. Even Keynes hated it. I mean, ultimately, only on the condition that you take the argument of cheap iPhones, which I don't care. You completely. It's such a fucking moot argument. Oh man, if not for tariffs, prices would be fixed. They would be static. They wouldn't go up. They wouldn't go down. There's no such thing as branding. There's no such thing as $1,000 iPhone, which they choose the fucking price, not the market. They choose the price. It has nothing to do with the price of actually creating the good and shipping it here. It has nothing to do with tariffs. It has nothing to do with the actual cost. It has everything to do with the branding and the actual price that corporation puts on a phone. My phone, the phone that I bought, which is an LG phone, was $100. $100. And I see people that are on fucking workers' comp with an iPhone. It is simply people buying shit they want. It's a luxury item that poor people want. And they set the price. It's not the fucking market. The tariffs that if you put tariffs on an iPhone would have no difference. If they said we're putting tariffs on this fucking iPhone and no other phone, it would have no effect because it is a brand. It is a brand. It is a ridiculous argument. You can say that it would increase the prices of, let's say, metals. Okay, let's put a tariff on aluminum and steel. Okay, we still generate those materials here. We still make them here at a so-called higher price. But the thing is, the difference that it would make in the economy is not so ridiculous that it somehow creates fucking inflation or it craters the market or anything else. It just shifts the investment. That's all that happens. That's all that happens when you create tariffs, is that it shifts where you produce it. And if it does create additional costs, then that's it. It creates additional costs. It doesn't tank any market. It doesn't bankrupt anybody. And if they do bankrupt, well, that's fucking capitalism. That's the market. No one is guaranteed a fucking profit. There are endless fucking regulations, endless fucking costs, endless overhead in producing a good. A single tariff is not going to make any difference. The cheap iPhone argument is a fundamentally stupid argument. It is not an argument of helping the working class. It is just an argument for the status quo and to create as much return on the investment as possible for investors. That's it. That's all you're arguing for. It's not for anyone else other than the investor. And guess what? You can invest in American corporations too. I don't know if anyone ever told anyone that to capitalists, but you can actually invest in companies that are not just in China. So the thing is that if you have tariffs on every single good possible, will that destabilize an economy? Sure, but we're not doing that. We're using tariffs currently to force other nations to come to the table and renegotiate trade agreements. That's the whole reason why we're doing these tariffs. They're not permanent, you idiot. They're not permanent. It's not tariffs on this good forever and always. They're conditional. We have these tariffs. We will keep them there until you come to the table. It's a strategy. And what you're doing is just arguing, never do that. Never renegotiate. Never create tariffs for the sake of using them to benefit your own country. It's a stupid fucking argument. And I can get reading Milton Friedman and believing in the ideology that basically America should be getting pegged in the ass 24/7 by literally every other nation on earth because they use tariffs to their own benefit all the fucking time. China does it. They all do it. Canada does it. The EU does it. They all use tariffs for their own fucking interests. But for whatever reason, the United States, the largest economy in the world, can't do it because Milton Friedman and some cocksuckers in Chicago said so. It's an absolutely ridiculous argument. It's to everyone else's benefit and to our own disadvantage. That is the argument. It's a completely ludicrous argument to put forward. It's dumb. Tariffs have their place in an economy and in political strategy. It's The fact that people are out here saying like, oh, well, when you tariff a good, blah, blah, blah. The economy's doing better than it has been in the past like decade. Shut up. Shut up. Trump could come out tomorrow and announce 1,000 more fucking tariffs, and the unemployment is still going to be fucking record lows. You're still going to have insane growth, like 4 fucking % or whatever it is currently, right now. You know, it's ridiculous. Nothing is occurring because Trump is introducing tariffs. The economy is going up. It's not going down. Consumer confidence, I just saw like yesterday or 2 days ago, was at record highs. But no, tell me about how tariffs are cratering our fucking economy. Milton Friedman, as I've said, was wrong. Milton Friedman was wrong. You can sit here and howl at the moon, but he was wrong. And every day that you see a new statistic saying our economy is doing better than it was under Obama proves you wrong. You know, Barack TPP is my friend Obama. Despite that not being passed, our economy is somehow miraculously doing better than it was under his administration. Weird. Weird how that is. I don't understand. The TPP didn't pass. We're not getting pegged in the ass by East Asia. Somehow our economy is doing better. Hold on. Milton Friedman said the opposite. Oh, man. What a joke. Everyone's arguing in chat about waifus. Here I am, like, screaming, and everyone's in chat just screaming about waifus. Yeah, TPP will come back. I agree. TPP will come back. I don't think it's gone forever. They didn't just drop it. They basically took it, and they're still workshopping it currently. That's the last news I heard. They're still workshopping it. So it'll come back. But the thing is that I'll never agree to any trade agreement where we loop in Vietnam. That to me is fucking ridiculous. That we're still playing this fucking patty cake bullshit with totalitarian regimes where they don't become more liberal when we fucking trade with them. It's unbelievable to me that we're still willing to trade with fucking communist countries. So yeah, I'm just glad that we have people in the administration that are not fucking on board with that. Because I can guarantee you with Trump, there's people telling him specifically, do not sign that agreement. Do not bring it back up. You know, it was very much the right decision for him to make as soon as he took the White House, was to fucking shit that bill out and say, fuck this. We're not doing this. Get rid of it. I'm not signing this. We're not doing anything with this. You know, fuck the TPP. You know, they can piss off Japan, because the whole thing with Japan is it's Shinzo Abe. Shinzo Abe is an internationalist conservative, and guess what? He's tanking. People keep telling me he's doing well. No, he isn't. He is not doing well. And that's fine. Once Shinzo Abe goes, a lot of that fucking push for the TPP is going to die. Because then they won't have their fucking puppet. The corporatists in the world, the internationalists in the world won't have their puppet to make that demand from. All right, so let's I'll actually yeah, I'll take one more quick question, and then we'll wrap this up, because I want to go get something to eat before I move on to my next case. As far as I know, the Japanese left is stupid as shit. That's the only information I've ever been given about the Japanese left is that they're fucking useless. Yeah, I see people saying shit about Vietnam as being shit. Yeah, they are shit, and we shouldn't reward them. Is that it? Let me check Twitter real quick. Nope. I see people still talking about tariffs. I don't really know if I want to end on that or not, but I do want to end because I want to go grab something to eat before I take off. Is there anything else, or is that it? Have I killed the chat with my anger about fucking tariffs and economics? Is that what ended? Oh man, is there anything else? Okay, I can't think of anything. Let me go to my likes on Twitter, see if I have anything here to mention. Oh, I forgot. I was going to repost a video that I did. Somebody messaged me and they wanted me. It was like for the millionth time, somebody messaged me and said, "Oh, do a video on extra credits." And I actually looked up my old extra credits video. I'm going to make sure I tweet that out today because that was a very good video by myself against them. I took them down pretty hard in that video. So, oh, I guess I'll talk about. So, there's been a report going on about. Let's see if they say where. Oh, hold on. This video is going to play, isn't it? No, don't play. Okay, it's not going to play. Who is it? Ian Bremmer, who, let me see who he is. Ian Bremmer is with something called G0 Media and Eurasia Group, which sounds like a scary fucking. Oh, so I guess he's an anti-globalist. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who this guy is, but his name is Ian Bremmer. He appears to be an anti-globalist. He's followed by a whole bunch of fucking people that I'm aware of that are political. So he said that apparently they're at the G. So this is at the G7. So they're at the G7. So it's all the G7, all the big nations. Canada, France, Japan, the U.S., Germany, UK. There's more, but so they're at the G7. They're in a meeting. So they're at the meeting, and according to this Ian guy, Trump at one point stood up, went over to Merkel, put his hand in his pocket, took out 2 Starbursts, and just put, he didn't put them on the table. He threw them on the table at Merkel and says, "Here, Angela, don't say I never gave you anything." Like, I don't know whether that's true or not. It's only him reporting that. It's only been a single source so far that's been reported. But supposedly that is what Trump did to Merkel. And that is the funniest fucking thing. That is the funniest fucking thing ever. If that is true. That Trump literally reached into his pocket, took out 2 things of Starburst, and just didn't place them on the table, literally threw them at Merkel. Like threw it on the table in front of her and was like, "There, don't say I'd never gave you anything." I've seen that reported in a bunch of different outlets, including the one on The Hill got like 20,000 shares. So it went fucking viral. I gotta make sure I watch that. It's from he reported it on CBS originally. I gotta watch that video, see what exactly he says, because that sounds so. Because the thing is that like even he makes it sound like, oh, this is such dysfunction, blah blah blah. But that to me is such a Trump move. That is such a fucking like a domination move, like a power play, just to show your dominance in a room. Like that, it's not really about like, oh, America and fuck Germany or fuck tradition in terms of our relationship as nations. It's just it's 2 leaders on an international stage and fucking Trump just doing a power move just to show her up, just to fuck with her. So I wouldn't put it like this guy could be totally making up for the sake of saying fuck Trump. He could be completely making it up. But the thing is that I wouldn't put it past Trump to do just to fuck with her. Just to fuck with her. Just to show that like I'm the badass in the room. I'm the powerful person in this room. I'm the leader of the free world. You come to me, I don't come to you. I could see him doing it for that reason, just to screw with her. Francis Maxwell, who's that? But yeah, I think that that definitely was something fun to see, and yeah, I'll have to. I'm looking for. The thing is, though, is that I want a second source. Before I believe that, I want a second source. I want somebody to prove that actually happened. Because like I said, as far as I know so far, it's just this one guy that reported it. He's the only one, and that to me does not lend it a lot of credibility when it's one person, especially when they might be like an anti-Trumper lunatic just making shit up. All right, so some TYT cunt. I'm not following that. Is that somebody that made a video against Sargon? Francis Maxwell is a TYT gender. Oh, I know who that is. That is annoying. He is in Sargon's latest vid. Yeah, I saw Sargon's latest vid. Did he make a reply to his vid? Let's wrap this up, by the way, because I want to go get some food. So is that who this Francis guy is? Well, I know who he is, but did he make a video response to Sargon's video? Somebody say so in the chat. Yeah, I saw the right side of the video chat, or the right side of it. I'm on the right side of the video, the history because of X, Y, and Z. I saw that. It was cringy as shit, but it's nothing new for progressives. He didn't make a response. Okay, then who cares? I saw Sargon's video. Yeah, it's dude, that's nothing new for progressives. I'm on the right side of fucking history. That's what fucking Mao said. That's what Mao said. I'm on the right side of history. It's the fucking empty screeching of a totalitarian. You know, that's all it is. All right, so that's somebody says cool meeting me at a NYC event. There's only a handful of people that met me there, so if I met you there, that's cool. But yeah, I'll wrap this up. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the super chats. There's some YouTube apparently just implemented some new shit, and I got to look into that. And I will definitely, if you follow me on Facebook, Gab, or Twitter, which you should, I'm going to tweet out that extra credits video just because somebody requested I do a takedown of them, and I've had a million people ask me to do a takedown of them, and I already have. And the video I did on them was pretty fucking solid, so I'm going to tweet that video out. Because yeah, they're cringy as shit and they're stupid, and I'm surprised anyone watches them anymore. But yeah, that video I did on them was pretty fucking rock solid, and I'm gonna tweet that out when I get a chance. But right now, I'm gonna go get some food and then head out to my next case. And when I get back, I'll see what I'm doing. But if I have time, I'll start working on an actual video to get that done. All right, thanks for stopping by, guys. And like I said, be sure to look out for that video. All right.